Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, the place to come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker and welcome to episode 297. Can I trust me to show up? Well, welcome back to this month, which has been all about, as you know, reclaiming the parts of you that got lost through trauma or relationships where you had to disconnect from the real you to survive. And so this month, it's all about learning how to trust your gut again, how to stop abandoning yourself. We've been talking about that. And we're going to continue this concept this week by taking a deep dive into something I think so many of us struggle with, but rarely name. And that is the quiet, consistent ways we let ourselves down, and how that pattern can really chip away at our self-trust over time. And if you've been listening for a while, you know that self-trust for me is a really big deal if we want to work on self-confidence, self-esteem, and having a life that we're proud of. So if you're the kind of person who always shows up for others, but really struggles to follow through on what you promised yourself, well, this episode might be for you. Because whether we're talking about skipping rest, avoiding hard conversations, or just pushing your own needs to the bottom of the list more times than you can count, well, these moments matter. And I think they often go unnoticed until you no longer feel connected to yourself. Now, this isn't about blame. It's about understanding why we do this and how I think it's linked to early patterns of survival and then what it takes to repair your relationship with yourself from the inside out. So what does showing up for yourself really mean? It's not a self-help cliche. I think it's a very real skill, and for a lot of people, it's an unfamiliar one. It doesn't mean being on all the time or nailing every goal you set for yourself. I think that's more pressure and not presence. I think showing up means being someone you can count on to check in with how you're really feeling, especially when it would be a lot easier to ignore it. It means respecting the boundaries you've set even when no one else is watching or enforcing them. It's about honoring the promise you made to rest, to speak up, or to maybe even pause before reacting, not because someone else will notice, but because you will. And when you follow through, even in the smallest ways, you start to rebuild that quiet sense of inner safety that says, I've got me. Now, this might look like leaving a situation that's really draining you, even if it's inconvenient and you disappoint people. It can look like following through on something you committed to yourself, like journaling, resting, or maybe not texting that someone who you know isn't good for you. It really looks like telling yourself the truth, even if it's uncomfortable or maybe even scary. When you don't show up in those small ways, it's not just about the moment. Because I think it begins to eat away at your sense of self-trust and can really leave you feeling scattered and ungrounded and, most importantly, ashamed. So why is it so much easier to show up for other people and not ourselves? Well, this is the part that confuses people the most. Like, how can I be so reliable for them and so inconsistent for me? Well, the answer usually lies in your early emotional wiring. So if you grew up being praised for maybe being helpful and flexible and easygoing or self-sufficient, well, then showing up for others became a source of safety. Being needed might have been your way of feeling valuable and safe. Conversely, disappointing others could have felt dangerous, so you avoided it, even emotionally dangerous. It didn't have to feel physically dangerous to have a big impact on you. But disappointing yourself, well, you learn to tolerate that. You learn to brush it off, and you have found probably a million ways to tell yourself it's not a big deal. I think this is why people-pleasing isn't just about saying yes too often. It's really about betraying your own limits because you're afraid your worth is tied to being agreeable. Now, most people blow off that statement and say, well, I don't do that. But I really want you to think about that and look at situations where maybe you did not honor your boundaries because you kind of knew if you did, there would be conflict. You might seem unlikable, not going with the group, that kind of thing. When you get used to showing up everywhere within, though, I think your center gets foggy. I think we disconnect, and we've been talking about that this month. Because you're never sure where you stand, because you're never standing with you. It's that chameleon effect where you become what everyone else in the moment needs you to be. Which is why we've been talking this month about values-based decisions are really huge, because if you go within and say, well, this matters to me because, and these are my values, and this is why I'm passionate about this, or why I won't do a certain thing, then that's about you, and that doesn't change no matter who's in front of you. Then you can trust yourself more. So what are some of the quiet ways we break promises to ourselves? Like, self-betrayal doesn't always look like chaos. I mean, it often can. It can create a lot of chaos in our life. We know that. But sometimes it looks like setting a boundary, doing the right thing, and then guess what? Backing down at the first sign of tension. Or maybe even watering down your boundary. Saying you'll rest and then pushing through just one more thing. Not letting yourself take lunch, not letting yourself get up and stretch, go to the bathroom, that kind of thing. Keep pushing. And then promising yourself that you're going to journal or move your body, but you just sit there scrolling instead. It can look like telling yourself you'll finally say how you feel, and yet you swallow your words when you get there. These aren't moral failings. And that's really important. We need to understand they are survival patterns. Patterns we've been talking about this month. They're strategies you learned how to stay safe, maybe to fit in, or maybe avoid punishment. Maybe you said yes when you wanted to say no because it kept the peace. Maybe you ignored your own needs because it felt selfish to have them. Or you knew that the people around you weren't going to meet them. Maybe you learned early on in life that your voice didn't really matter, so you stopped using it. But even if these patterns were protective ones, they come at a cost. I mean, every time you override what you feel or need, you send a subtle but very powerful message to your nervous system. And it says, I can't count on me to listen. I don't follow through. I don't have my own back. And what matters is understanding that over time, this builds a deep, low-grade tension within you, like living in a house with no foundation. So you might look fine on the outside, but inside there's a lot of uncertainty. There's so much doubt and restlessness, that not being able to sit in your own skin kind of thing. And I think that inner wobble erodes both your sense of safety, but also your confidence, because if you can't trust yourself, it's hard to feel steady anywhere. The good news and the reason why I do this work is that I believe that foundation can be rebuilt. And it gets rebuilt often moment by moment, promise by promise, and it starts with a lot of awareness and not shame. So how do you start showing up again without shaming yourself? Because rebuilding self-trust does not happen by punishing yourself, and that's really important to understand. I think it starts with small, doable actions that prove, I'm back and I'm listening now. And this is where I have clients begin. Just create awareness. You may not be ready to do anything yet, and that's okay. It's a process. And when you think about it, all the things I just mentioned are all fear-based. So you don't want to traumatize yourself into doing something that seems too brave for where you are at this moment. And that's why you desensitize slowly over time. So you start with those small, doable actions that prove to you. So you start tiny. You pick one thing per day you're going to do just for you and follow through. It can be as simple as a 5-minute walk, one little boundary held, like you don't text that person, or writing down one truth about you. And that could be even something that you believe in, something that matters to you, something really great about you. Another thing you can do that I think we underestimate is to underpromise and overdeliver. Self-trust isn't built on intensity. It's built on consistency for the most part, not perfect. So if you work on not overpromising, then there's a greater likelihood that you can follow through on those things, no matter how small. And then every time you follow through and your walk matches talk, as you often hear me say, you are going to believe in yourself more. And other people are going to have more trust and faith in you. So just little things. Pick one little thing a day. You can always add on later, but start with one thing a day that you're definitely going to commit to. And that's what matters. Pick something small, try to really follow through and make that happen. However, you probably won't at first. And so it's really important to speak gently to yourself. When you mess up, I want you to notice the voice in your head. And would you say that to someone you love? If not, redo it. It's also really important to create motivation and momentum because you're not going to start out motivated. You want to track the wins. Keep a simple list or maybe even a mental note. Today I honored what I said I would do. Today I honored what I said I would do. I wrote in my journal. I went for that walk. I did not text that person. I did that one little thing that I said I would do. And even better if you can share that with someone safe, because guess what? Those are the moments that rewire your system. They're rewiring your brain into believing something different and doing something different. But again, a big piece of this is you've got to get enough love around you. You've got to get enough support, belongingness, acceptance, a good coach who gets it and gets you, because that relationship is what is most important. And even a tiny community that you can have that will walk alongside of you, that will give you encouragement and acceptance along with, a spoonful of reality with a smile, a gentle spoonful. Because you also need the mirroring from them that you didn't get probably growing up around good for you. You were able to set that boundary that must have been hard or keep going. You're doing some great stuff and these things are really making a difference in your life and we can see that. Like I notice in clients, if they did some self-care that day, their whole energy is different. And the more they do it, the better they feel. Now, I want to stop here and talk about some of the guilt and the fear that can come up when you take that 5 minutes. And that is the other reason why you really want to start small and make it new habits so that you don't sabotage your efforts by saying, oh, that's too selfish. I don't have time to take a walk. There's too much to get done. And that is the other reason why you can't do this work by yourself. You need other people to look at you and say, you deserve 5 minutes. Everyone deserves 5 minutes. Go for the damn walk. We're fine. We'll be okay. We will see you when you get back. Because you need that logical reasoning, I think, that feedback that says, it's a good thing for you to take 5 minutes. No one's going to die. It's okay. You're not being selfish. You're not a slacker. Like, you need all that data because of whatever was intimated to you over the years somehow stuck. And that is why it's hard for you to imagine doing something that seems so selfish on the face of it when it's not. So how do you do the repair when you let yourself down? Because I think this is important. Everyone breaks their own promises. Sometimes we all do. The key is to repair, not to retreat, and that's really important. So practice how you look at it and think about it, and you want to ask with curiosity, and this can really help to neutralize it. When I did this work many years ago, this was a game changer for me, where I didn't attach a lot of yuck to it. No judgment, just saying, I wonder what got in the way. I wonder why I couldn't do that. Do you see how it takes that off of me as a person? Doesn't say anything about me as a person. And it talks about it, like, ooh, what made that hard? Okay. The other thing it does is that made me use my prefrontal and not get back in my limbic system. And that's really important. The other thing you want to do is renegotiate that promise and say, okay, I didn't do it today, but I'm going to make sure I do it tomorrow, and I'll make it realistic. I'll make it realistic. Like, how do I know that I could probably make that happen tomorrow, given what I can control? I mean, stuff can always happen, right? But this is the boundary work that we've talked about here on the show so many times, where do I have an hour tomorrow to make that happen? Do I have 5 minutes? Can I do that? And the other thing that's really important is to talk to someone safe who can also remind you it's okay and it makes sense that this is a struggle for you. You've been a people pleaser forever, like that kind of thing, to normalize it. And then you just want to reaffirm. You want to say, I am still learning to trust myself, and I don't have to be perfect to begin, because no one is. And we all have to start somewhere. And make sure it's both grace and responsibility. The realistic label that you're learning and progressing without excusing the slip. It has to be both. It's reminding yourself and both that it's really important to keep my promise and to not give up. But it's also, alongside that, a struggle to get there. It's and both. That's really important, because personal responsibility is necessary for you to feel good about yourself, but along with gently and gracefully allowing you to do this new thing and learn as you go and fall down along the way. And boy, that will teach you more than anything. So you've probably been so dependable for everyone else. But today we're talking about it's time to be dependable for you. That you deserve to show up. You deserve to start working on the things that have been hitting your heart lately. Things around self-care, things around boundary work you want to do, changes you want to make, being more authentic, speaking your mind, being more vulnerable, having self-control, connecting better with others, getting your needs met. These are all the things that I cover in my Find Your Voice group, by the way, because those are all the pieces that we need and more. So can you trust yourself to show up? If not, reach out. The group is there. I am here. The SOAR community is here to help you. And maybe you haven't done it fully, not yet, but you can start today. All you have to do is begin, and that's enough. So today we took a closer look. I think it's something we don't talk about enough. Those quiet ways we drift from ourselves. And we're the kind of people that often pride ourselves on being reliable, supportive, and present for everyone else. But what happens when we're not offering the same loyalty inward? And this isn't about harsh self-criticism or impossible standards. I don't do those. It's about noticing that gap between what we say we want and what we actually follow through on when it comes to our own needs, our own boundaries, and maybe our own truth. This isn't about fixing yourself. It's about remembering how to listen, recommit, and rebuild the trust you've been craving from within. No drama, no shame. I think it's done like one small self-honoring moment at a time. And those moments gain momentum, and they're going to create a bigger impact than you think. Thank you so much for being here today. If this hit home and you're realizing how much you haven't been showing up for yourself, Check out all the links in the show notes. I have programs there to help you out. I have a few openings next month for Power Hour where we can sit down and talk about what are your next moves. And make sure you find me over on Substack, where you will find a great community of people helping each other. Okay, so pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you could begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.